So when I decided that it didn't really matter if I turned out the masterpiece for all time on my first book, that I just needed to write this book I wanted to read and write the best book I could write at that time, that was the thing to do. So that's pretty much how Goodnight Irene was born.
Now, did Irene's name come to you with this first line?
Mm-hmm.
He loved to watch fat women dance.
And
Irene?
I just knew, no, I wish I could explain this because it starts to sound like I'm much more New Age than I am.
You're channeling, huh?
Yeah, out from the Sedona or something. But I am, I have no real way. I know it's, left brain, right brain stuff probably. In some kind of relaxed mode, things just occur. I have no idea. It's just imagination at work.
Was it the song that was the trigger? Because
no, the other way around. I knew that her name was Irene Kelly. She just sort of introduced herself to me as Irene Kelly as I was writing about her. I knew from that first line, for someone to, it's obviously the beginning of a eulogy. It's past tense, and the next sentence is, I guess O'Connor's last night on the planet was a happy one because that night he had an eye full of the full-figured. And for someone to begin to speak of a lost friend by using that sentence as the first sentence, he loved to watch fat women dance, is going to be someone who had both a great affection for this person, was very close to them, is speaking about the way in which he could find the admirable in things that perhaps other people might miss. Other people might not see what was so wonderful about that, but he had the ability to find the odd, intriguing, and wonderful in its own way. And so all that came out of that first sentence, and I knew that she had this kind of sense of humor that would be irreverent about things from the start. So that all came, it sounds strange to say from one sentence, but really my whole career has grown from that one sentence. And it really, to me, was not difficult to develop her from there. As I got to the point of thinking what was happening next, it was, well, what happens when your name is Irene? Well, when your name is Irene, everyone on the planet sings Goodnight Irene to you sooner or later. I try to find anyone named Irene who's never heard that song, if they live in this country anyway. One of the last things she does, or her last encounter with O'Connor, is his drunkenly singing Goodnight Irene at the top of his lungs, which we learn is sort of a thing that he's going to do. She begs him, please, don't sing it, but he's going to sing it as he goes ambling up to the door, and that's her last vision of him, is his singing that song.
And in fact, he is then murdered, and he's her mentor, and that's what starts her off on this whole first case. Is that the case where there was some scenes in Phoenix? I thought I remembered there was a Phoenix nexus in that book.
She meets Rachel, who's the homicide detective in Phoenix at that time. Rachel later comes to live in Las Pianas, but it goes partly to Gila Bend and partly to Phoenix. So there are Arizona scenes in that book.
And Las Pianas is, in fact, your fictional coastal Southern California town, which is what, sort of pseudonymous Long Beach?
It's Long Beach if you grabbed hills from Laguna and hauled them up. The topography doesn't match Long Beach much. Long Beach is kind of flat.
Right.
Las Pianas is hilly. So if you take portions of Laguna and Newport Beach to the south, and you grab, Venice as far as I go to the north, I think, and bring them down the coast.
Kind of an idealized place, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of people writing about L.A., the mean streets of L.A., and an urban life in L.A. is different than it is in these coastal cities. But Long Beach has 500,000 people living in it, and so it's not a little burg, it's not a little coastal village.
No, and it has blue-collar roots, and it's a shipping, it's a port, and so there's a lot of stuff that you can...
Military, every
It's not cute like La Jolla or Carmel or something.
No,
I mean, there's, in fact, you make use of that military history in your book about Rosie the Riveters and
Yes, Dear Irene has
right,
all of that.
and with the
in it.
Greek mythology clues.
Yes.
I love that. That was so much fun. I'm a history major too, so you can imagine how much I enjoyed that. The first 4 books were all riffs on Irene, right?
The titles were.
Right,
Yes,
that's what I meant.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Yes, the titles of the first 4 books were all. So it was Goodnight Irene, and then it was
Sweet Dreams, Irene, Dear Irene, and the one no one can remember, Remember Me, Irene.
right. And at that point, you know, you shifted out into your one-word titles, which have been what? Hocus,
Hocus,
Liar,
Bones, and now Flight.
Right. Flight is the new book. Bones was last year's book, and that's the one that won you the Edgar Allan Poe Award for Best Novel, for which I congratulate you again.
Thanks.
And you also introduced an interesting new character in Bones, which is the cadaver dog.
Yes, Bingle.
I
Yes.
love Bingle.
Oh,
and he's
thank
back in flight, which I think is so cool. In fact, I wrote you an email to make sure that Bingle was really back in flight and that he had first appeared in Bones. So what's with the cadaver dog? I mean, he's becoming a family member.
Well, you know, every now and then you have a character in a book that just, you know, can't forget him or leave him out of it, and Bingle has one of those personalities that I think make itself felt. Plus, I also find that I like writing about that whole area of forensic science, which is or law enforcement. I'm not sure exactly which category that would fit into, but cadaver dogs, they're not dead dogs. They are dogs that are used to are trained to find human remains, and they're trained so that they could detect as little as a single drop of blood.
Do they have bloodhound strain in them?
No, bloodhounds can be used for this kind of work, but most of the people I met were using what they call air scenting dogs. A bloodhound is a tracking dog. You have to usually pre-scent a bloodhound, and they are, you know, they have a fantastic nose, but quite often they use more like a working dog, like a German Shepherd, Lab. Any breed can be used for this work. Some of the smaller breeds are also used, but usually they go for the larger dogs just because they have to often cover large terrain, rough terrain, and they want a dog that's going to be able to make it over rough ground and not be worn out a mile into the excursion. So they're usually pretty athletic dogs as well. But
so what is Bingle?
Bingle is a German Shepherd mix. He's got a little mud in him from somewhere that makes his hair stand out around his ears, and a few other things that make him not quite the purebred German Shepherd. But he's a Shepherd mix, and he has been trained by a character in Bones to do this sort of work, and is part of a search and rescue group that also has dogs that specialize just in this kind of work.
And he's brought into the story because there is what is thought to be, I can't remember if he's known to be, but anyway, suspected to be a serial killer. And he's buried some remains out in the mountains and can't remember, or he says he can't remember where they are.
Right.
So the cadaver dog comes into play.
Right. This actually does happen quite often. Every now and then I have someone write to me saying, well, the police would never take a killer out to these spots. Police take killers out to these spots all the time.
Do they?
This happens, yes.
You mean to try to reclaim?
To try to recover, well, in part because this is evidence in an open case, and they're trying to close the case. But for the family members, they're trying to bring this closure around what's become of this member of their family that may have been missing, or where there's been known to be foul play. The families want the remains recovered. That's a very important part in our culture, in any case, for the grieving process for a lot of people.
You bet it is. But theoretically, then, any killer being taken off to a site to try to recover a body has confessed to killing it. I mean, they're not going to walk off there if, in fact, that's what's going to convict them.
And Nicholas Parrish is already, basically, he's in custody. He's suspected, and more than just mildly suspected, of killing and torturing a woman. The police take a look at this case that they have going. They're sure that they've got a special circumstances death penalty case. He's gone away for a long time, and this is not the first time he's done something like this.